Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Insight Studios production. This is the first of many Fight Night series, and today we're going to be doing a best of 5 between Mitoe and GiveUAnxiety on the UI 2.2 ESOC Baja, California. And today I am joined by Dualcrad, who will be co-casting this best of 5 with me. Dualcrad, welcome to the stream, and what do you think about these two players and the map they are on and the civilizations they chose?
Well, Mitoe, of course, is one of the strongest players currently playing Age of Empires 3. Probably easily within the top 32 and probably way better than that. So I'm very excited to see what he does here in this game. GiveUAnxiety, not quite in that top echelon of players, but he is a very strong player nonetheless. He's currently sitting around Lieutenant Colonel, makes him easily one of the better players currently playing the game. He's definitely the underdog in the best of 5, but I think that he has a good chance against Mitoe.
For sure. These are both really good players, like you mentioned. And spawning in the west of the map, we do have GiveUAnxiety playing as the Indians in the color red, and in the east, we do have the one and only Mitoe playing as the British in the color teal. Let's go ahead and check right off the bat the treasures and the hunts, make sure everything looks good there.
Yeah, that's always important. It's like 2, 3. Looks like the hunt situation is pretty much even.
And treasure-wise, do have a 95 wood treasure that Mitoe was picking up right off the bat, trying to kind of kite back that grizzly bear. I think I had 2. He crashed out of the first and 1 for the second. 95 wood is definitely good for the British civilization. That could mean getting a whole extra mana out depending on what your wood start was.
Yeah, he actually did fairly well fighting that one. Normally a grizzly bear can take a lot of it once off of your explorer, and he managed to do it fairly easily. And yes, the 80 wood treasure over here with the same 2 grizzly bear guardians, so he got the better one in this case.
Yeah,
and the 95 wood. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, other than that, the only other really good treasure is this 150 coin down here.
Oh yeah, that is probably one of the best treasures in terms of how easy it is to take relative to what it provides. The 150 coin is an extremely powerful treasure in general, and it's not guarded by very much at all. So it would be a good treasure for either player to be taking. I think there was the 60 wood treasure that I believe GiveUAnxiety did take. It was relatively easy to take as well, guarded by only 2 cougars, and so he's going to be very happy about that one too.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think we're going to see like a standard build orders kind of from these guys? Do you think either of them are going to try to do something a little bit out of the norm?
I think we'll see fairly standard play. It's possible that one of the players will look to go into the water a little bit. Yeah, there is a treasure contention here we can talk about in a moment. I think both players are going to go for a fairly standard build order without too much water play. Although water is certainly a possibility on this map, and you can see Mitoe has interest in the water deck, and neither has GiveUAnxiety. And yeah, the treasure contention is very important here. I think it's really close. There's a little bit of lag in the game. I think Mitoe gets it, and it's going to be great for him.
Yeah, definitely. Having gotten to 95 as well, I mean, that's a whole extra mana right there. And his first card is 3 settlers, pretty standard stuff. Not going to see much else from a British player.
Exactly, yeah. I think he's going to be very happy about, I believe, 175 wood total. And that creates mana that creates a villager and puts him very far ahead in Age 1. Of course, GiveUAnxiety, he likes to get wood too from... okay, so relatively even then if we're going to have the 150 coin going to GiveUAnxiety. It's not as useful, especially with Indians. They don't need coin as much as, say, Germans might, or just any other civ.
Yeah.
But it can be useful for them. It's more just going to be valuable for its villager seconds rather than something that speeds you up in any way, like the wood might. Still a good thing to have.
Yeah, especially considering that, his settlers do cost wood. Getting the wood treasures means that basically kind of guarantees you're not going to have any TC idle time in between the ages.
Yeah, it's especially notable with India because oftentimes they cut villagers in different ways, right? Most civilizations, they don't have TC idle time. They get enough villagers to age up, and they have enough villagers when they age up so that they hit up with no TC idle time. And India is not really a civilization that permits that just because of the way that the macro works. And so getting wood treasures sort of allows you to reduce the amount of villagers that you're cutting.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking at the age up times right now, and Mitoe's over halfway aged up, and GiveUAnxiety hasn't even clicked up yet.
Yeah, so this is fairly non-standard I'm not going to say non-standard, but it isn't the most common India build, right? The most common India build is to do some sort of forward aggression. And I think it's generally fairly strong against British players because British is a naturally very defensive civ at the beginning, or they often play very defensively because they want to do mana boom. But he's going to be going for a Carnimata instead, and this can be valuable. This can work certainly. It means that he is going to be playing a bit more passively in the early game, and maybe we may see an FF at.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that could be viable. I mean, like you said though, like you're more likely to see the forward aggro because not only does India have that option to be very aggressive, but they also have like the perfect unit counters to what the British can make in Age 2.
Well, yeah, it's notable that India is oh, okay, yeah, that could have some effect. India is naturally a very strong H2 civ because they can make basically a Dragoon type unit, which gives them 4 different unit types in H2, which many civilizations don't get. Or if they do get it, they get some sort of bow rider or archer-based ranged cavalry unit, which tends to be a little bit harder to micro. So India tends to be very strong in H2 because of that. But their H3 play is powerful nonetheless. It's not like their strength in H2 makes their H3 bad for any reason.
Yeah, they have some great cards like Urumi, and their elephants like Siege Elephants, Fire Elephants, Howdas.
Exactly, yeah. So both styles of play can be viable. I think that GiveUAnxiety is not going to... Oh, it's actually aging with Tower of Victory. So that's not the Carnimata. That's the 400 wood age-up option, and I'm not too familiar with builds that involve this. I think that you generally go to Tower of Victory age 3 rather than age 2, so I'm not too sure what's going on here, but I'm interested to see what he does.
Do you think we're going to see him try to go age 3? Do you think he's going to commit to an age 2 agenda? Because he didn't go for any of these town centers, these trade posts, which you typically want to do if you're going to go to the fortress.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting style of play. I don't know exactly what he's going to be doing because, right, it's always good to take trading posts, but it doesn't necessarily force you in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
Generally, if you're playing H2, you actually won't go for a trading post, and if you're playing H3, you do want to because if you're FFing, you do want those extra shipments.
What do you see?
So in this case,
4 Hussar coming from Mitoe. His macro wasn't quite good enough to get a full batch of 5.
Yeah, it might have just been, could have been anything, just maybe didn't get quite the treasures you wanted.
Yeah.
So,
although it is worth noting,
not great, but
how beautiful his herding is.
Oh yeah, he top players generally are very strong with cooking, and he has done a great job in this case. And he's sending that 700 wood card, so he's going for a fairly economic opener, which I think against GiveUAnxiety is fine because GiveUAnxiety has evidently not applied any pressure. It's not evidently not going to be doing so in the near future, so Mitoe is definitely able to do this sort of for free.
So he's pushed into his base. He lost 1 Hussar, but he took out one of the elephants, and he might get the other one as well. Do you think it's worth losing potentially? He might actually lose 2 Hussars here to get those 2 of those elephants.
I think he's going to lose only 1 Hussar, and I think that's fine, right? It's bad in the sense that he lost a Hussar, which costs resources, and the elephants are free. But you do get 90 XP. You do deny scouting information, and it denies the elephants from doing any damage early on. In this case, because GiveUAnxiety is not going to be doing anything with the elephants, he's not going to be pushing into Mitoe's base. It doesn't really matter if the elephants exist or not. But the 90 XP, I think, is worthwhile.
Yeah. GiveUAnxiety did call his sentries out, though. Do you think he should have done that in this case?
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit of an overcommitment. But at the same time, it can be so difficult to deal with Hussar in your base without the sentries available that, right, these Hussar could have just sat here and idled so many of GiveUAnxiety's villagers that it did sort of force them to call these sentries early on.
Yeah,
and now you just have to see what's a bit more. Yeah, there is a little blue flag in the game, unfortunately. Yeah, so Mitoe has done well here by killing those sentries because those were sort of what kept GiveUAnxiety able to defend. Right now, these 8 Hussar can defeat 5 Sepoy, and so Mitoe has the opportunity at any point in time to just come in and destroy all of GiveUAnxiety's units and then continue to idle his villagers.
And he's actually idling villagers right now, so it looks like he's just now tasking them back on. And
yeah, well, he's probably a little bit distracted.
Mitoe's actually taken one of the trade posts, which is pretty smart. I mean, whenever you're already ahead economically, which he is at the moment, you can start to take those trading posts and profit from the shipments getting there faster.
Yeah, I'm still interested in seeing what GiveUAnxiety is going to be doing further because, right, he hasn't really... his strategy so far has just been sort of to make units in the colonial age, but hasn't really demonstrated any plan of action. And this is probably a bit not ideal really for him, because Mitoe is ahead economically and will only maintain or grow that economically by taking map control, taking those trading posts, building more manors.
Yeah.
So GiveUAnxiety does need to do something, to sort of take the game into his control.
For sure. Mitoe is actually aging up right now. He seemed to have done a 9 Hussar semi-FF by doing the 700 wood and 700 gold right behind it. I think that's the right thing to do here. You're ahead economically. You're ahead, in a sense, military-wise. So you can just age up and improve your units and continue to improve your economy.
Yeah, it looks like GiveUAnxiety is planning to do the same. He's gathering up resources. He's going to be aging up pretty soon. This is I sort of see what he was going for, right? He wants to make these sepoys to defend against Hussars that are coming in, and he wants to age up. So it's similar to, say, if you're playing British against Germany, right? You want to make a few muskets or a few pikemen to defend against the early Ulan raids, and then you want to age up yourself or build up a big ball of units from the muskets, and then kind of do a tiny push in the mid-game as soon as they hit up. In this case, you're doing the age up where you build just enough units to hold, and then you beat them in Fortress. The issue, though, is that Mitoe has actually aged up quite a bit faster. I think that because India is so hard to macro, it's so difficult to actually get this to sort of work the way you wanted it to.
Yeah.
And so GiveUAnxiety is a little bit late in all of this, which is not necessarily his fault. It's sort of a product of playing India.
Oh, so Mitoe just now hit up to Fortress, and he still has a lot of Hussar, and he's doing Longbowmen. How do you feel about that composition there against India?
I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Longbowmen are an interesting unit. They tend to be a little bit weak in small numbers. So, for example, Mitoe is calling pause, and there's a little bit of lag, so he might be doing that, or he might be just be answering the phone. But the way longbow work is that in a large number, they're extremely powerful unit. They sort of kill everything, including Hussar or other counters. But in small numbers, they actually lose to a lot of other units. For example, you can sort of run a bunch of sepoy in and kill 10 or 15 longbowmen without much of a problem, even do it cost efficiently often with the sepoy. But once that longbow number gets to a larger amount, like 20, 30, then that shifts the other way, and the longbow becomes so much better.
Yeah, one of the things, though, like whenever your composition is consisting of longbowmen, it's a little bit harder to be offensive because longbowmen don't have a whole lot of siege than it would be if you had Hussar and Musk, which is a pretty good composition. Even in the Fortress Age, honestly, for Britain, considering they have so many upgrade cards that they can send on top of the veterancy upgrade.
It can also be a little bit difficult to harass with longbowen. Not necessarily that difficult because they do have such long range, but the setup time of their animation, the fact that it takes so long, means that you can actually, you saw an example of it just there, right? They want to fire on that villager, but because they have to set up, the villager just goes into the town center before they can actually get the volley off.
Yeah, and good players will notice even what unit that the longbow are targeting. So with really good macro.
There's actually quite a bit of lag right as this happens. He did age up with it now, but it's probably not going to be able to do that much damage just because there's so many Hussar out right now.
Yeah, they just body really block and cause pathing issues. Which is
this is. Well, he's actually doing pretty well. Mitoe is pulling back this Hussar when that gives the Mahout an opportunity to come in, but the Mahouts actually didn't really get any hits off, which is probably not what he wanted to happen.
It did tank a lot of damage, though, which, in a sense, that could have been its purpose that it needed to fulfill.
And now you are seeing a little bit of the issue with the longbowen is that they can't really get that much damage done. Well, now they can because there's not that many sepoy, but you saw earlier they weren't really able to do that much because they had to reposition themselves because there's not a critical mass that they can't really stand in one place and just fire.
Exactly. That's the power of the longbowen, is that they have to be in one spot, really. If you keep on moving them back, that setup just costs you so many shots.
And so probably with this many sepoy, it's not sufficient, but if we saw, for example, a sepoy card come out, they would be able to take the longbowen. Even cost efficiently, they would be able to do it. There's just not enough longbowen to really fight against sepoy. And yeah, the 9 sepoy card is coming out, and this can actually defeat this number of longbowen just by running them in.
Yeah, because I mean, these Longwomen, the last thing they really want to do is get into hand combat with these Sepoy, or even be in range of them. It's just the nature of the Longwomen is that you want it to be out of range of the units, just providing DPS.
That being said, GiveUAnxiety definitely fell a little bit behind there. He wanted to build up a good army. Since he was in Fortress Age, and I would argue, or I would say that India's sort of fortress shipments tend to be a little bit better than British in terms of the unit shipments that they have. Mitoe doesn't have that many phenomenal unit shipments, right? He has 10 Longbow 2 Falconets, but after that, they're a little bit dicey. Whereas GiveUAnxiety's military shipments in H3 are very powerful, just across the board.
Yeah.
This means that he doesn't want really his army to be reset, right? And that was an army reset, which favors Mitoe in this case.
Yeah, but on the flip side, though, Mitoe can he can stand up to having to reset his army because he has the full trading route, and he is, let's see, about a, recalculate, about a 10 settler, it's actually 13 settler lead on GiveUAnxiety right now, so he has the economic advantage, so he could do well just continually resetting the armies and just letting his eco give him the win.
Exactly, yeah. That also is something that is a good point. It will favor Mitoe every time the army resets, because every time the army resets, Mitoe basically has the opportunity to continue to grow his economy, and as long as he has the economic advantage, whenever he doesn't die, he continues to get further ahead, basically.
Yeah, so even trades aren't really necessarily even because the economy behind it isn't supporting it.
Exactly, yes. So in this case, yeah, Mitoe does have a pretty substantial army lead, and you can see it reflected in the score, but these Urumi are coming out, and this can be a good opportunity for GiveUAnxiety to turn the game. It's important to notice that Mitoe's composition is still very unstable. He doesn't have any anti-cavalry, and this can put him in a good position, or put GiveUAnxiety in a good position where he just kills all of Mitoe's units pretty much straight up. But
And
in this
he's got
case, I
these
think
Urumi coming in as well.
right, the Urumi didn't really come timed at the same time as the Sepoy, and it meant that the army didn't really fight as well or as effectively as it could have. You can see the effects here. He didn't really get this Urumi to do much damage.
And look at this. He's like running his cav around in circles, and the Sepoy and the Redcoats are just falling around, taking damage from the Longbowmen. And that's actually a really well-played game for Mitoe, who takes game number 1, giving him that, of course, first game, and also earning anyone who bet on Mitoe the win for that bet. So let me go ahead and update that. Congratulations to whoever it was that bet there. Go ahead and reset that poll. And we're going to go ahead.
Looks like, yeah, Sir Callan doubled his points.
Of course, of course. Let's go ahead and take a look at the post game here and see what we got to see. Oh wow, just look at that resource line. Literally from age 2 onwards, he was just so far ahead of GiveUAnxiety at every turn.
Absolutely, yeah. GiveUAnxiety's strategy was interesting, but yeah, you were mentioning in the chat that it was the first time he'd actually tried it out. And I think that was a bit reflected in the execution. It didn't really pay off at any point in time the way he probably wanted it to.
Yeah, you can see reflected in the military unit count timeline that the first battle they had, the trade was fairly even. Honestly, I think GiveUAnxiety did a little bit better there. He took out more units than he lost, but just because that economy, look at the follow-up that Mitoe had, and then the second battle just, I mean, that really showed.
Exactly, yeah. I think GiveUAnxiety had a decent chance there, but yeah, I think he would have to tighten up the build a little bit. Maybe come in with a little bit of a better plan. But overall, not awful play from him. I think he certainly was in a position to win that multiple times.
Yeah. And so the second map poll is running right now, guys. So make sure you get those votes in. Every vote counts, and you can influence what map they play next. So I want to see some more votes than we did see the last game.
GiveUAnxiety is mentioning that he'd, if you permit it, he can restart his computer. Hopefully, fix some of the lag.
Yeah, sure, we can take like a 2-minute break. Well,
Okay.
we don't know how long it takes for his computer to boot up, though, so hopefully he's not like running on a potato.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's see how long it takes for us to get that map chosen. And while we're waiting, we can just talk about the map. I'll pull up the description for it, and we can read that out. Talk about what civs we might see on that map as well. And so far, it looks like we got some votes from a vote for Mitoe, a couple for Hudson Bay, got a couple for Bengal going on. We got one for Arizona. Gotta love the diverse map pool that they offer.
Yeah, let's see. Hudson Bay. Looks like Bengal got 2 votes, or actually the X folder voted incorrectly, but still has 2 votes without him. Yeah, so I think Bengal and Hudson Bay tied.
Okay, so which
But
one? Since there's a tie,
the X folder voted for Bengal. He just voted it incorrectly. So
Okay.
I think we should go with Bengal.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so Bengal, and let me pull up the. I don't know if I actually got. I might actually have that map description saved. I got like half of them done before I had to leave. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so the description is you're about to settle in a colony in the Sundarbans of the Bay of Bengal. Make your way through the mangrove forest to get access to further resources. There are no trade routes, but the Botki devotes may join your cause. So pretty excited. I haven't seen a whole lot of games on this map. Have you?
No, not too many. I know that it was used, I think, a couple times in the autumn tournament, and it was a map in the round of 8 of the second chance tournament. It was the 3rd map, so people played on that one. And I found it was a difficult map to play on. Really, it's it's a little bit awkward since there's no trading post, and that's always very difficult for a certain set of civs. They have to really think about how they're going to play the map out. And you could even argue it restricts the number of civs that you're able to play.
Yeah, for sure. There's some civs that you just don't want to take that with, like I'd say Portuguese, Germany,
exactly,
France,
Ottomans, and yeah. So it does limit you a little bit there, and the fact that you can't build on those like off the land also makes it a little bit awkward for certain civs to play. It kind of reminds me of Bayou in some way. And Bayou is, of course, historically one of the worst maps in the pool, or in the standard map rotation. But it's not nearly as bad as Bayou. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean the swamps can provide a pretty interesting style of gameplay because it really limits the real estate you have to build those buildings on.
Yeah, it means that you can't really wall off a lot, or not in the same way. And that in the really late game, it can have an effect. And actually, I see Mitoe picking, India right now. And the remark about that is that it can often be difficult to find a place to put down your export if you're playing India on this map.
Yeah,
just because there's so many, it's so hard to find a good spot.
And so you're kind of forced to place that really defensively because there's not a whole lot of other places to put it.
The other thing to note on this map is that I think I would describe that as having a very short rush distance. You can even see they put that vertical cliff in the map just to increase that rush distance a little bit. Because if you put it block house right at the bottom of that cliff, you have a very short pushing distance to your opponent's base, and it's very easy to get villagers over there. But it also means that it's very obvious where your opponent is going to be putting a forward base, and so it gives you a good opportunity to.
Okay, so there's a question in the Twitch chat asking for us to explain the difference between Iron Horse and Stagecoach. So I'm assuming the train and Stagecoach with numbers. All I can find is that it increases. What are the numbers, though? I don't know.
I don't remember.
To my knowledge, the only difference is that the train is faster, and so you're going to get the stuff. Yeah, and you're going to get the things more quickly. But honestly, most games, it's not really relevant. The trade posts they outlive their usefulness by that point that you could be getting it in Age 4. Stagecoach is definitely very viable, but in my opinion, most games are going to be over before you have the opportunity to even send that. Now, in Treaty, on the other hand, it's a different story. I imagine it's cost effective because in the long run, those resources are going to pay for what you invested.
main issue with the railroad is that you can only get it in H4, and at that point, the cost of it is almost inconsequential. Not inconsequential, but it kind of gets close to that. So you kind of just research it if you have the resources on hand for whatever reason. But many games don't even get to H4, and so it becomes a bit immaterial. And yeah, it isn't a great upgrade. Trade posts, they don't really scale into the late game. They kind of have the value that they have, and then you can improve it a little bit with the railroad, but oftentimes it's just like it's worth maybe the entire trade route. If there's 4 trading posts, it's worth about 15 villagers, and you don't really get much more than that. Arguably, you could even say it loses value over time because your villagers get better as the game progresses, and the trade route doesn't get better.
All right, we do have GiveUAnxiety back. So, let's make sure that Mitoe's locked in, and we'll see what Anxiety's counterpick is. Just in case he left the computer, just go ahead and throw a taunt out there. So he is yes. So I'm assuming that means he is locked in. So let's see what GiveUAnxiety's counterpick is. Howling Wolfpaw is complaining about the buffering.
Yeah, I think, with all due respect to Howling Wolfpaw, I've heard him say that before, so I think it's just his internet problem. With all due respect to him, I don't think it's a problem on our end. But
that is unfortunate, though. On the bright side, the YouTube video will, of course, be even higher quality. So,
yeah. So, I don't know what Mitoe's going to do, but I'm expecting him to do a non-aggro build. I could see him doing a Carnimata build. Just because it's so hard to put down the aggro that you can often kind of just lose the game because you can't find a place to put down your aggro. I'm not too familiar with how much space is on Bengal, so he knows the map better than I do, so he might be able to say, okay, yeah, I can reasonably put down an aggro forward on this map, but I could also see him just not have a place to put it and then losing the game off that and maybe not want to take that risk, and so he might be doing some sort of Carnimata build instead.
Oh, we see port coming from GiveUAnxiety. How do you feel about that? This map is, in my opinion, bad for port for two reasons.
Yeah.
The first being there's no trade route, and there's no water either, both of which port is going to want. But secondly, kind of the same reason for India, in that there's no real estate to place that town center that you get for free, and so you're not going to secure any more resources with it.
Well, there are opportunities to put down a town center more so than an aggro. It's not such a big building that you can't put it down anywhere. The lack of a trade route is a deficiency, but one could argue that the only reason Portuguese are heavy trade positive is because they don't get a villager card, and so they just send ATP instead. There's, they otherwise there would be sort of like a French where they just kind of like to have a TP if they can get it, but it's not so essential to them that they are non-functional without one. If that makes sense.
Yeah. At the same time, though, if I recall correctly, there's no water on this either, and so they're not going to be able to send schooners or anything. So what do you think his first card is going to be? Do you think it's going to perhaps be economic theory and just kind of play off of that?
Yeah, there's a mixed opinion on whether economic theory is worth it as your first Portuguese card. I tend to be of the opinion that you should just save your shipment and send 700 gold once you hit colonial instead.
Okay.
And some people say, nah, you should send economic theory as your first card because it'll scale well as you go further.
Gotcha.
And, both people on both sides are very strong players, so it can go either way. You may end up sending Colonial Militia first if Mitoe just goes for some sort of very aggressive play, but I don't think Mitoe's that kind of player.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second game in this Age of Empires 3 Insight Studios Fight Night between Mitoe and GiveUAnxiety. Spawning in the west of the map, we do have Mitoe playing as a civilization India in the color teal, and up against him is GiveUAnxiety in the color red, playing as the Portuguese. And of course, co-casting alongside me is Dulkrad. Dulkrad, how do you feel about this matchup, the players, and the map?
Well, So the matchup has to be taken into account with the map here. It's an interesting map because it's maybe not the best map for either civilization. Of course, Portuguese are a civilization that likes either having water or likes having trading posts, of which there are neither on this map. And India is a civilization that likes to put down their agri fort, and it's also very difficult on this map. Although this did spawn with an opportunity to put one around right here. Yeah, we do see treasure contention, so I'll take a moment to look at that. This was an 100 wood or 100 food, which is pretty good treasure, and Mitoe is getting it. That's going to be really unfortunate for GiveUAnxiety, who lost a lot of Explorer HP from that.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him to get any other treasures at this point now.
Yeah. This is a decent map for India just because of all of these cows, which India naturally gets an advantage in scouting over a European civ, which doesn't really have any way to speed up their scouting pattern. So you can see that he's going to get all these cows most likely. Probably get, all but one or two of them compared to GiveUAnxiety.
I see 100 food. 100 wood. Put between 250 wood treasures. So we'll see if they get either of those.
Yeah. Those are treasures that are fairly easy for India to take, but a little bit more difficult for a European civ to take. A European civ can take them sort of just by a crack shot, but they can only do that so many times, right? There's a refresh on that, which means that it can be a little bit difficult to take multiple of them. Whereas India, their stun refreshes much more quickly, and so they can sort of take these 50 wood treasures without much difficulty. Now, Mitoe is not going for a 10-10, so that already gives us a little bit of information about what he's going to do. I think, having played with Mitoe a little bit, having watched him play, he's not really a player that goes for very aggressive strategies. So I could see him doing some sort of Carnimata build, or I could even see him doing something similar to what GiveUAnxiety did last game.
I don't know. In this sense, I think it might be better for the Indian player to push really hard on the Portuguese player before he really has the opportunity to take advantage of his late game economy.
That's true. Yeah, I think India definitely is the aggressor in this matchup. Portuguese likes to, if they can be left alone for a few minutes, they're perfectly happy with that. In this case, GiveUAnxiety is saving up his first shipment, but he does have Colonial Militia in his deck, which means that he has that opportunity to send Colonial Militia if he feels like he's getting pressure down really hard. And yes, somebody has dropped from the game. GiveUAnxiety has dropped from the game. That is too bad.
Oh well, maybe he'll reconnect. Go ahead and give him his full 50 seconds that he has left, and we will see which is going to be. Well, we will let Mitoe decide whether or not to make this a rematch, but he does have the option to just force a win because this was after the 2-minute mark.
Right. I was GiveUAnxiety was born in 1996. But he was older than that. '95? Still younger than I thought.
Alright, he says rematch.
GiveUAnxiety's you can chat with him.
Oh, okay, so we have one of the guests in the audience asking what one of the best civs to play is to develop skill, and I guess that is slightly dependent on which patch you're on, although if you're a new player, relatively new, maybe PR20 or below, I would suggest that you play on RE. I think the best civ would be French. Another good one would be Germany. Those are probably my two favorite ones in terms of a new player.
Yeah, I think French is sort of the go-to civ for just learning how to play the game, because they don't have anything special about them, in a sense. They're sort of the vanilla civ, which is interesting because Spanish was actually intended to be that civ in design, but they became such a boring civ that they're sort of so boring that even the thing that they're best at, somebody else is better than them at. But yeah, French is the villagers are a little bit different, but it gives you a little bit of help because they're they're not that much different from a normal villager outside of just making it harder for you to be rated, which is fine as a new player. And their core SCA don't really come into effect until Fortress Age, and even then, they're sort of just better hussars in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it doesn't tend to matter too much. Every other civ sort of has something to them that makes them a little hard to play.
Yeah.
Or it makes them a little bit of a different experience. So French tends to be the best for this.
Yeah, the cool thing about France is that you can literally do just about whatever you want with them. They have so many build orders, so many strategies that you can do. They don't really have any civilization that like hard counters them. I mean, there's a few matchups that are hard, but on RE, there's nothing that really directly counters them, like Germany versus Dutch on RE, which you don't ever want to do as the Dutch player.
Yeah, I think you could also get away with just playing Iroquois, but not playing them in the all-in sort of way.
Yeah,
because they're sort of a civ that doesn't have anything special to them, at least in my opinion, although people would disagree.
the only problem, though, if you go with that, is there seems to be kind of a prejudice against Iroquois players. Okay, so whenever we say RE and EP, what that's referring to is on RE, that is the regular edition. I think that's what I like to consider.
It stands for so this is a little bit of history. It stands for Robot Entertainment, and because they originally released the patch 1.02 back in 2009. They were what Ensemble Studios part of like about a third of Ensemble Studios went over to form the company Robot Entertainment, and they released a patch immediately after they took over Age of Empires 3 sort of support. They no longer do that, of course, now, but that's what they were originally doing.
Yeah, so RE is just the regular game. You just download it off of Steam. What you're playing is RE, and the difference between RE and EP is that on EP there are some balance changes that were made, but for the most part those balance changes only are really relevant at higher levels, and so when you get to about maybe captain and major level, it starts to become a little bit more relevant, and you'll want to start playing on EP instead. What are the counters to ports, and do they counter anyone? On EP, they're considered to be really strong. There's a few matchups that are a little bit more difficult for them, and they're really typically map dependent. On RE, they're considered to be pretty weak. I'd say Saginue, if I said that right, is probably the best map for them, and you could just like do your little boom and spam goons and heavy cannons, but that's just about it. On EP though, you're good for just about anything.
Okay, so Mitoe is asking what the plan is.
Is he still in the stream?
Yeah. You said he has to stop for about an hour.
Oh, man, that's okay.
Yeah, I am a little bit tired, which is a good thing because it means I'm going to sleep earlier. So I wouldn't want to cast in an hour. I would prefer to go to bed like
likewise. So here's what I think the solution here is. I'm gonna have to Sight versus Mitoe, guys. That would be approximately like, let's say it's best of 5, so it'd be like 3 to -5. With that being said, though, I think what we're gonna do here is we can pause it here. We'll keep the score at this point, and we'll just pick it up at a later date.
That sounds fine with me.
I think that would be the most logical conclusion.
Yeah, if the stream wants, I can play a quick game against Mitoe, just for fun.
Aragon OP said that he would go up against Mitoe. Alright, so for those of you that might not have caught the gist of what's going on, here's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, GiveUAnxiety was having some technical difficulties, and so he's going to have to bow out. What we're going to do is we're going to reschedule, we're going to finish this best of 5, maintain the score that we already have, and we'll just continue it at a later date. For those of you that waited so patiently and didn't just abandon us whenever we started to experience technical difficulties, we're not going to abandon you. What we're going to do is we're going to do a show match between Aragon OP and Mitoe, and then once that's over, we will go ahead and we will end the stream.
Go to bed.
Yeah, we'll go to sleep, because Duck and I are Americans, and it is currently 2 a.m. for me, and I think it's actually a little bit later for him. So
Yeah, 3 a.m.
I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know why we're up this late, but that is what we're doing, and we will continue to do it because we have no judgment skills when it comes to going to bed.
Indeed.
Just gotta get him to get in here at some point. Rest in peace, GiveUAnxiety's computer, though. Oh, he's getting failed to join.
Yeah. He said he's turning on his VPN.
Yeah, no judgment skills. Oh, that is very true. Oh, fun fact for everyone in the stream right now. It's actually one of these players' birthday today. Today is actually Mitoe's birthday, so everyone, please wish Mitoe a happy birthday in the chat, because I think he deserves it.
Aragon might actually be getting failed to join with me. Oh, he's using a VPN. Okay, so we can join with a VPN. Unfortunately, that's going to make the game lag a lot, but what can you do?
Maybe we'll get
Why they're
lucky.
saying no. Oh. Yeah, Aragon has had a couple of instances of fairly bad lag before, with all due respect to him, of course.
I mean,
It's not his fault.
it's yellow green for the most part,
Yeah.
so maybe we'll luck out here. Let's just green up and cast all doubts to the wind. Well, okay, we'll go ahead and redo the poll. I'm just gonna give you guys 1 minute this time instead of 2, because I'm impatient. If you guys want the same map, vote for the same map. But otherwise, we'll just go ahead and see what you guys want now, because there are a few different people in here. There's people that left and so forth. So make it so. Get that vote in. You got less than 60 seconds, so be quick.
So, when are you coming tomorrow for the telethon? I'm just curious.
Let's see. Your time, it starts at 4 p.m.
3 p.m.
Oh, it is?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It starts at 4 p.m. technically, but we're actually starting an hour earlier because the Deer versus Bee winner is going to be starting at 3 p.m. my time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And you and I are going to cast that.
Who and who?
The Ear and I.
Okay, the way that I heard that was that you and I, and I'm like, I'm not available at that time. Yeah, so 3 p.m. EST, and I'll be coming on a little bit later in the day, probably around 6 p.m. EST. and
Okay.
I'll stay for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, I was probably going to come on, cast that, and maybe stay on a little bit longer until Cheddar or you comes on.
Yeah.
Then hop off there, and then maybe come back at a later time. When people start to get tired, and they need some support.
For sure. For those of you watching right now that might not know, we're doing something special tomorrow. We're doing a charity telethon, and it's going to be a 12 to 24 hour. Basically depends on whether or not we pass out, which is probably going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But there are multiple people that will be doing it, so I mean, in the end, we should be okay. But it's going to be a charity telethon, and the proceeds are going to go to Doctors Without Borders. And I don't know if I have the link on me right now, but if you go to ESOC, let's go to their forums. I'll actually link the actual link to the information for it in the chat. Let me go ahead and load that up real quick. But yeah, that's what's going on, and I'm pretty excited for it. But we'll be doing a tournament match to start it off with, which is pretty exciting in and of itself. It's going to be the last tournament match of the round of 16 for the Insight Invitational Tournament. And then after that is going to be various casted series. It's going to be special guests on the stream, interviews, that sort of thing. H2O is going to make an appearance. I think they figured out Lord Raphael, going to get him to have an appearance as well, and just various fun stuff like that. So I am looking forward to seeing you guys there, and of course I'm looking forward to taking part of it myself, because it's going to be a lot of fun. And
Alright, so there's a 4-way tie, but people still want 4 to happen, which is Bengal, so I think we can just stay on Bengal.
Alright, yeah, totally cool. Totally cool. Alright, there's the link to that. It's going to start at 3 p.m. EST, so Eastern Time. The GMT for that is... Oh gosh, what's the GMT for that, Duck?
19 GMT. No, sorry, 20 GMT. 20 GMT.
Yep. Yeah, we'll keep this map. Okay. Ugh, 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's sister called from hospital. That's one of those things where, like, you don't know exactly how to respond, because it kind of could hint at something really bad happening.
It's very...
But also could just be just a normal, like, kind of routine thing.
Yeah, it's very open-ended.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah, that's what I was looking for.
This is not how I foresaw the first fight night to go, but I think we still have some interesting stuff going on.
So yeah, coming up in about a week, I'm going to be having a fixed sleep schedule. Not fixed in that it'll be routine, but it'll be more adapted to normal hours, like business hours. So I'm not going to be able to stay up until 3 a.m. anymore, unfortunately.
Well, I think you're just fixing it in the wrong direction, and what you need to do is just set it up so that you're consistently awake until about 5 a.m.
I can't do it, unfortunately, because I have to do real work again.
Hopefully we don't end up needing a show match for the show match.
Yeah. I'll be able to play if needed. Just one game. But of course you're going to be solo casting, or you might be able to get Cal on the cast, but we'd have to go into RE.
That's right. His EP doesn't work. Although I guess it's not as ironic now as it once was.
Yeah, Cal and I were playing a bunch of 2v2s earlier today. It was a lot of fun. He would play the British, of course, and he would make all the units, and then I would just raid all over the place, and then he'd steamroll them with his big army that got bigger because we kept raiding them.
It reminds me of, well, I mean, it doesn't specifically remind me, but I was playing some games against Octanium yesterday. I don't know if he's still in the chat or not. I think he actually left, so it's okay for me to make fun of him. That's what I gathered from this. But no, he's very close PR to me, and we had a very entertaining match that lasted about 40 minutes. It was on Colorado, and it was France, myself, versus his Portugal. and he had a much larger economy. He had two of the trade posts, and we were kept on battling over the third. And I somehow managed to win by going pure cuirassier against his goons. I had him split up into 4 control groups and kept on snaring his goons and wiping them out. And then whenever he finally got enough mass of them, I just popped out 30 skirm. At that point in the game, that was a large amount. And there was so much raiding going on. If you've seen the Vil line, it was all over the place. I ended up taking out like 40 of his settlers. It was very entertaining.
There have been a few games where I remember a game. This was a very long time ago, thinking like 2008, 2009, where I killed my friend's town center. I killed all of his stuff, but he had like 20 or 30 hussars, and he just kept raiding all over the place. And he would never allow me to have a consequential fight. And so eventually I just said, no, I don't want to do this anymore, and I just resigned, despite being like 100 points ahead of score.
Something I've noticed is a lot of players, like, you look at their PR and they're a captain or whatever, but they're only a captain for the first 10 minutes of the game. If you can prolong it, they get steadily worse. I'm not trying to encourage you guys to go and lengthen a game to be 30 minutes long, but I mean, it's a decent strategy. It's effective.
Oh yes, some people can make that work, right? Sir Callan saying, yes, the player who captained up until minute 10 is him.
It's pretty funny though how many people that does describe, like, honestly. And then you have people who like to lengthen things out, like Ganesi.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
That's my strat versus captains.
I was thinking, I was thought about it. Can you see? So, like in RTS games, right? There are these people who don't really understand how to play RTS games, right? Like, and I think it's a very, very big, like, people who kind of like their build order is like the Egypt colonial, like 20 minutes in, and they make like villagers, and they even out, like they put even villagers on gold, food, and wood, and they don't really like have any understanding of any real higher level concept in Age of Empires. They're a very large portion of the people actually play that game, play that sort of RTS. And most people, once they start playing online, they will either quit the game or quit multiplayer once they realize that like what they tried to do doesn't work, or they'll actually get good and start playing the game, like sort of like according to the meta, how you kind of have to play it. But Kanisi just sort of maintained that style. He didn't quit, and he didn't like learn how to play. He just kept doing what he did and made it work.
So to buy some time while we wait, okay, so he can get a better connection now. So while we're waiting for him to fix his connection, we're gonna get that game coming in real soon. I'm gonna just pick a random card, kind of borrow, pun intended, gonna borrow a card from Chrissy's book and choose a random card and talk about it. And so I decided to choose the Aztec Civilization and the card Silent Strike, which can be sent in Age 2. It makes your Coyote runners have the ability to go into stealth mode.
It's a pretty good card, I guess. Like, it can
be situational, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, somebody can make it work. It's not the worst card I can think of.
Well, what is the worst card you can think of?
I think Advanced Market is pretty bad.
Would you say it's worse than like Advanced Plantation or Advanced Mill?
Let me think about this. Yeah. So a lot of the advanced cards are pretty bad. Advanced Training Post is the only good one that I can think of.
I'm gonna have to like force you to send all of the advanced cards and try to win a game with it.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the Aztec cards right now. Maybe I can. I don't know if I can think of the worst card overall, but maybe I can think of the worst Aztec card. That might be more feasible.
Sir Colin suggests that Team Cheaper Market Upgrades is worse.
Yeah.
Or the 2 lions should be.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know. Maybe in a 4 versus 4, the cheap market upgrades could be useful. Oh, team
So yeah,
build
the
houses
advanced
faster.
farm card, which is minus 50% wood to farms, and then plus 100% HP. That's not a good card by any means. But
Team fast houses is good in Lost, I think.
medicine is not a great card. It's interesting because I used to think that card was good, but
It's kind of
It's
counterintuitive because you think, okay, I'm gonna get my settlers faster. That's a good thing.
yeah,
But is that a Aztec card?
yes, yeah,
Because the Aztecs have the I think it's called fertility. I don't remember what the actual dance is, but it
yeah,
increases
yeah.
your settlers.
They can just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what's the point?
One town center wagon is actually pretty bad because it's worth 600 wood. Right, so it's just worse than colonial shipments in terms of how much wood it gives you. And you could even argue that like it's a disadvantage to be able to make the town center wagon.
Yeah.
Because if you have your explorer making a town center and your opponent comes and tries to destroy it, you get your wood back. Or at least you get some of it back, right?
Yeah.
But if you take a town center wagon, build it, and then your opponent comes and destroys it, you lose your town center wagon.
Yeah. And you don't really get it. You don't get anything back from that at all.
Exactly, yeah.
Nothing but a loss.
Yeah. I'm glad to say 3 Pet Jaguars is a pretty bad card, but I bet somebody could make that work. Like, to do treasure hunting, so I'm not going to say that card's bad.
Yeah, it's a very situational thing. Like maybe if you scouted like the best treasure ever and decided I'm going to send this and it's going to justify it.
Advanced Scouts, that seems like a pretty bad card, but I bet Azan can make it work. So I'm not going to say it's bad. It makes your Scouts do 200% more damage and 50% more HP.
There's that Russian card that you can set in Age 1 that increases the line of sight for your cavalry.
No, that card's good. That card's actually legitimate.
In team, I don't think I would want to send that in a 1v1 as Russian.
Well, actually, so I was watching, who was it? Wicked Cossack versus Total Chaos, a couple days ago. And this wasn't Total Chaos, this was actually, it was Total Chaos's account, but it was Haza playing that. But anyway, it was a Russian mirror, and they both actually sent team cavalry scouts at the same time. It was like for whatever reason, it was like a standard card. And I didn't know anything about that, so I don't know if it's actually a standard card, but it seems like it's a card that you send. Or it might be just a one the Russians sent. Maybe in their prolonged colonial. Anyway, they are greening up. Okay, so.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Inside Studios Fight Night. And there was a little bit of some technical difficulty issues between GiveUAnxiety and Mitoe, mostly on GiveUAnxiety's side, but we have rescheduled. We're going to pick those up at a later date, and we're going to do a show match between Mitoe and Arrogant OP before we close down the stream, so that you patient folks, I actually do believe my game just crashed. So there's always that. That's actually really nice. I'm going to go ahead and get that reloaded like right now, but that's actually kind of ironic. In the middle of my introduction about technical difficulties, I have a technical difficulty. If I had a dime.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oftentimes my EP actually does like soft crash, where it'll start saying it's not responding.
Mine
if you
does
don't do anything at all, it'll fix itself.
And that's what mine does as well. That's just that's so ridiculous. Like,
so were you able to load in?
Yeah, I'm logging right back in right now, typing in my password.
So you didn't load in the game. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back in the main game lobby now. That's you know, third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Can always be worse.
Colin saying, remember when France early scrims was mirror meta? Yeah. I remember there's this one player This was back in vanilla when I was playing Adam a lot. This was 2008. He taught me how to do hit and run because I was playing Ottomans and he would speak French. Maybe she actually. So they would speak French and they'd send these early skirms card and they'd hit and run my Janissaries and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is so unbalanced. How do you deal with this? But I won anyway. But it was still really annoying. Because it's the only thing they knew how to do was hit and run skirmishers, so they couldn't actually win any other way.
Yeah.
So you could still beat them, but it was really annoying against them. And it was really surprising to learn that you could actually hit and run with skirmishers.
And it's definitely something that you're not going to see as often nowadays in this meta. It's kind of funny, thinking about that. That back in the day, that was the meta to start skirms and everything. But nowadays, it's just so much more useful to start with Hussar.
Alright, you can join the game now.
Alright, let's green up into this and wish for the best. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. After numerous technical difficulties, I think we have finally figured this out. Third time's the charm, of course, and we can now start the Inside Studios fight night between Mitoe and Arrogant OP, because there were some technical difficulties earlier between GiveUAnxiety and Mitoe, and so we're going to do a little show match with Arrogant OP before we do close down the stream, kind of reward all of you that have waited so long to actually get a match in, and this is on the map that you guys originally voted for, UI 2.2 ESOC Bengal, and as before, co-casting with me is a Dualcrad. So, Dualcrad, how do you feel about this matchup?
I've played it from the Chinese side several times, and I find it to be a very difficult matchup for China. Not necessarily a matchup that they can't win, or even that they're not favored in, but a matchup that they have to play extremely well to be able to win. And I think that Mitoe is definitely a player who can do that. I think when I try to play the matchup, I kind of just lose to any amount of aggression from Russia at all, because you have to be so careful about how you manage your villagers. But I believe that Mitoe has pretty good villager micro, and he'll be able to do pretty well in this case.
Yeah, for sure. And spawning in the west of the map, we do have Arrogant OP playing as the Russians in the color orange, and on the opposite side, mirrored to him, is Mitoe playing as the Chinese in the color teal. And on this map, of course, there are no TPs, and you have some lack of land real estate, because you can't really build buildings on top of water too well. And there's also the distinct lack of a trade route, and instead we have these two Indian trading posts. Do you think we're going to see either player utilize these?
I would guess no. I think that what we'll see is Mitoe is going to go for some sort of FF, maybe a semi-FF, and Arrogant is going to go just for a very standard aggressive Russian play. I actually was talking to Arrogant a little bit about this because we were playing this matchup before I was the Chinese player. And what he was saying was that he feels very uncomfortable against China in their fortress age, so he just tends to try to rush them down early on. And so I think that he's going to try to do exactly that in this game.
Which would make sense. China has an extremely strong fortress age. They have a lot of shipments they can send there. And if you can do enough damage in the colonial, which is where Russia is the strongest, then you could potentially win the game. And I'm trying to look at... He might actually be able to get a blockhouse up like right here. Without too much problem, or even down here. So
yeah, this place seems like the most likely place for a forward blockhouse. So I think we're going to see that coming up. And that's a very strong position. You can see it really cuts off Mitoe from access to so many resources, because it will cut off. It'll cut off this hunt right here, and give him not that much to work with in the future, and it will be extremely difficult for Mitoe to sort of push out and secure additional resources, and Arrogant will be able to starve him out, even if he's not able to outright kill Mitoe early on.
And that can be pretty strong in and of itself. Just keep that, keep him starved, keep the villager idle time up, and win from there. Although he has taken a lot of damage on his explorer, and all he got in return for that, let's go and check the treasures, was 30 food. So 30 food at the loss of nearly the entirety of his explorer's HP.
Yeah, Mitoe did get the explorer snare, and that's going to be very good for him. It's going to be nice so much scouting. and it's going to give him an opportunity to hopefully possibly forward base, put Miniman onto the Aragon's forward base, which will effectively stop any rush that Aragon tries to do.
Yeah. What do you see? Northern Refugees as the first card from Mitoe, which makes sense. That gives you, for those of you who might not know, a villager from each village and town center that you do have. So he made 2 villagers in the town center, which is essentially a 3 settler card, equivalent to the Europeans. Most Europeans, I guess. Portuguese does have a distinct lack of that card.
And the Russians do too, kind of.
Which is kind of relevant, considering this is a Russian matchup.
So yeah, Aragon sent the distributivist card, which is pretty typical for Russia as well.
Yeah.
And he is putting all those villagers onto wood, so we can definitely see a forward blockhouse coming out. He'll probably be sending he's sending two villagers out right now.
It would have been nice for the Russian player if he had instead gotten this 90 wood treasure as opposed to that 30 food.
Yeah, but it was a very dangerous treasure to take because these Tigers are very difficult to kill with the Russian explorer, and it's so close to Mitoe's base that Mitoe almost certainly saw it beforehand. Now Mitoe is putting up his wonder. He's putting that very defensively, but also in front of everything, and that's going to give him a little bit more protection. But there's a good chance that he's actually going to lose the wonder. In some sense, though, that's what you want, because him losing the wonder is better than losing the town center.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the wonder's great and all. It's wonderful even, but losing it is going to buy you time, and that might be just what Mitoe needs to get through this game.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Aragon did put his blockhouse right onto this part of land right here. So he is doing the pretty standard aggressive play. We're probably going to see the 5 Cossacks coming out, maybe even a 5-4-13, 5 Cossacks, 4 Cossacks, 13 Strelets. And Mitoe is going to have to find somewhere to hold that. And it's difficult to do, but not impossible.
Yeah, for sure. The Chinese civilization is a little bit weak to H2 cavalry, and so that combined with how early Aragon can get those out could mean that he could get some good pressure on him. Yeah.
Mitoe is going to have to be very careful about how he defends, mostly. He wants to get to H3, and I think that Aragon is going to be able to, he's not going to be able to stop Mitoe from getting into H3, but he may be able to stop Mitoe from building up a big ball of units once he gets to H3. Just by constantly putting stuff in his base.
So it might be worth it just to trade those shipments to ensure that Mitoe's not going to have a big mass.
Exactly, yes. Okay, Mitoe is putting up a war academy. So that's going to be interesting. So I think he doesn't feel secure about how this is going to go for a straight FF, and he's going to try to do some early defense with the war academy, with maybe making a couple batches of units, shipping a unit shipment first card, such as the Chukunu, and then trying to defend there and then go to Fortress.
There's that 5 Cossack card that we were expecting from him. Let's see what he can do with it, if he can make any use out of it. And he did actually time that with 10 Strelets at the same time, so...
Yeah, 10 Strelets and 5 Cossacks is pretty typical for Russia. And yeah, we can see Mitoe's response is immediately to call those 4 sentries. Almost a forced response really out of Mitoe. He really doesn't have any option other than calling these just to be able to survive. And maybe they didn't work quite the way that he wanted to, right? He lost all those sentries and killed a single Cossack, and now he has the Uknu out, but there's no real defense for them, and he's calling the irregulars too.
Oh, he did get a batch of those Quang pikemen though, so he might actually be able to do something with that.
Oh yeah, the Xiang Pipe was really good in this case. It was critical, and he actually killed 2 Cossacks, and he's going to kill maybe a 3rd. So very good defense from Mitoe.
Yeah, he should be able to hold this now. Bringing in those settlers, those rather villagers, to kind of beat up on those Strelets too, which is pretty good because they have a base attack at 10 and their hand attack, which is pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
that's
effective.
One of those things that is really hard to pull off, and it really separates like good PR30 players from top tier players like Mitoe.
Yeah, for sure.
Being able to use those settlers effectively.
And of all the units to use them on, the Strelets are a pretty good one to use. They only have 72 HP, so a single hit from a villager is actually pretty consequential.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, Mitoe defended that surprisingly well. I was a little bit afraid for him early on because those sentries didn't really get anything done.
Oh, he follows up with Step Rider. So he's going to take out all these Strelets.
Yeah, very solid defense from Mitoe so far. The 4 Cossack card coming in, and this means that Mitoe is going to pull back a little bit. He probably can't really take this fight, especially with the blockhouse up. So he's going to pull back, but he is doing just fine.
Yeah, he
I would
definitely
argue
hasn't
he's not even.
lost.
I would argue he's not even that behind in his agenda. Obviously, he does want to go to Fortress as soon as he can. But sending these 2 unit shipments, which is something that China would normally not want to do, is okay in this case because the Russian player had to send 5 and 4 Cossacks or had to send 5 and 4 Cossacks themselves, which means that it's sort of matching unit shipments for unit shipments isn't a bad thing in this case.
Yeah, for sure. Neither civilization got off the economic cards. They would have preferred to send like 700 wood, 700 coin, those type of things.
And putting up a consulate and making another batch of old Han means that he is going to continue this colonial China agenda.
Do you think he's going to opt for more of a send every unit shipment card you have while trading everything you can, and then right-click on the TC strat?
I think it's maybe not something that he plans to do. Okay, he did send 300 exports, so he's staying colonial, at least for now. I think he may be going for just a colonial play, which is difficult because he doesn't have the deck for it, right? You can see his deck is so H3 and H4 heavy that he doesn't really want to stay in colonial indefinitely. So he is, right, the longer he stays in, the fewer shipments he's going to have available to him, and the more all-in he sort of gets. But, and certainly right now he's fine, right? He can send a couple more shipments. I believe he has the
he's a pike.
9 chunk, and then he can send the resource crates.
Also,
so he's not in a bad position.
Or maybe he's just going to poke a little bit.
I think he does have a large army right now. He did. He brought out the 4 Cossack card, or not the card, but the 4 Cossacks from the consulate, and that makes him have a much better army right now. Yeah, I think he may actually push through. It's very difficult. There are actually quite a few muskets out right now, and he's doing well to focus down all the musketeers, but he's going to lose a lot of cavalry right now.
Yeah. It is worth mentioning that the Russian mass can be a little bit deceiving, and that while they do have cheaper units, their units are also a bit weaker, so these Starlets don't represent a whole lot, and if you can get some good contact, actually I think the Chukanu actually trade favorably against the Starlet.
Yeah. So he did actually get most of the cavalry down from both sides. Both players actually eliminated each other's cavalry, but the difference between the two is that Mitoe can train more cavalry, and Aragon really can't. He doesn't have a stable, and doesn't really have the opportunity to make a stable. So he doesn't really have the to destroy this big ball of infantry that Mitoe has. Whereas Mitoe, he can continue to make disciples, he can make more standard armies to make more step fighters. And he actually does have now that he sent the 9 Jiang, he has an ability to defend against a Cossack switch.
Yeah, he just reset Russia's army, which is what we were suggesting that Russia should do against China. Instead, they got flipped around them. And look at the economic score right now, and which is mostly representative because he just lost all his army, not because of the units. So this is actually really big.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, 700 food just gets sent to your forward base, and you have no settlers nearby, and you have no. Yeah, he says good game. Yeah, it's a mistake a lot of players will make. It's pretty standard for Russia to put that forward blockhouse down, and it's pretty standard for them to set that to their homestead gather point because, of course, you want to send your Cossack and your Strelot from that point. But then they forget to set the point back to their town center so that they can send their 700 wood, their 700 coin, and their 700 food, whichever they might want to choose.
Yeah, that's a mistake that a lot of people make, myself included. It's a very easy mistake to make. Yeah. And it always is so unfortunate when it happens. But
this is essentially the equivalent of wasting 1,400 resources because you can't gather your own 700 and you just gave your opponent 700.
Yeah. Oh well. So Aragon did call for a against Mitoe. Unfortunately, I am going to have to depart now to go sleep. I don't know if you want to cast that or not. I guess you have no real obligation to.
Yeah, likewise, I am also going to go ahead and go to bed. I will be around tomorrow, guys, and for those of you that are watching right now, before you exit, I would like to remind you that there is going to be a 12 to 24 hour live stream tomorrow starting at 3 p.m. EST, which for those of you that might not know is 2000 hours GMT. I'm going to post a link to this forum post right here. That's going to take you to a post talking about a 12 to 24 hour telethon, the proceeds of which are going to go to Doctors Without Without Borders. And there's a link on that also to give you some more information about that charity. Basically, we're just going to go for a 24-hour live stream. That's our goal, and collect donations for this. And there's going to be some there's prize points and stuff. There'll be for the first 10 people that donate, they'll be entered in a raffle to get a free Age of Empires 3 Steam key, and there's some other cool prizes in there as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do for the charity, and also just for the fun that we can have, of course. And it's going to kick off with a tournament game, and then it's going to proceed to some games with H2O, some special guests, some interviews, and just some general shenanigery. So I'm looking forward to it. And so with all that being said, guys, I do thank you for watching, and I do encourage you to visit the Discord that the studio has. We conduct a lot of our stuff off this Discord, and if you're looking for matches, you're looking for casters, or anything of that nature, I'm going to go ahead and link that link in here as well. Come give us a visit, and guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night for now. Take it easy.